Hi everyone. So we have a little bit of catching up to do. I do need to give you an actual official introduction to my new cat that I have. If you did catch my recent top 15 Syngonium video, you will have already sort of gotten to meet him. He was not supposed to make an appearance in that video, but you know, cats will be cats. But I need to give you the official introduction to him today and the full story of how I ended up adopting him. And then also I do have a new plant that I acquired actually the day after I filmed that Syngonium video, and it is actually a Syngonium, and it is one of my wishlist Syngoniums, so I want to show you that plant today as well. And there's just a few other things that I realized like I haven't filled you guys in on. So I figured since I have a ton of propagations that I need to pot up way more than I thought I had, I figured we would do a pot up and chat, if you will, get these ready to go so I can add them to my inventory to sell from my pop-up plant shops, and I can fill you in while I'm getting this done. But first, I would like to give a huge thank you to the sponsor of today's video, Brooklinen, because speaking of new things, I was desperately in need of new bedding for my upstairs guest bedroom that my parents stay in whenever they come to visit me. I originally bought a bed-in-a-box type situation for up there. The sheets were not as high quality as I was hoping they would be, and they have just failed me miserably. The elastic went out in the fitted sheet super fast. The sheets in general have just become faded and worn out over time, and so I decided it was high time that I put some new bedding up there, and thankfully Brooklinen came to the rescue. Now, Brooklinen did sponsor a video a while back. I believe it was in maybe April or May of last year. At that time, I did get a lot of you guys asking me if the sheets were really as good as I said they were, or was I just saying that because it was a sponsored video? First of all, you guys, I don't lie in my sponsored videos. If I don't like a product, I'm going to tell you the flaws that I have found with a product. So if I say I like a product, I like a product. And I definitely like Brooklinen's bedding. I honestly was more impressed with it than I thought I was going to be. I went into it a tad bit skeptical, not gonna lie, but I've been sleeping on the sheets that they sent me for my master bedroom since April or May, one of those two. And I am here to say, they are really, really nice, you guys. And I am one of those people who has a tendency to, I don't know what it is, something about my skin causes towels and sheets to bleach out really easily. And I'm always hesitant to spend any kind of significant amount of money on bedding or towels for that reason. But I have been really impressed with these Brooklinen sheets. They have not bleached out on me at all. They have not faded out, and they have gotten softer with each and every wash. So when Brooklinen says that they provide high quality home goods at affordable pricing, I guarantee you right now, you are getting high quality goods at affordable pricing. And the nice thing is, part of the reason that I bought a bed-in-the-box in the first place was I wanted a nice combination of things that I knew went together and matched to be able to just set up that bedroom and be done with it. Now, with Brooklinen, you actually can essentially get basically a bed in the box, but it is custom tailored to your needs. Now, another nice thing about choosing one of their customizable bundles is that you can currently save up to 40% off. Since I was really impressed with the Luxe Sateen Hardcore bundle that I had gotten for my master bedroom, I decided I would just do that for the guest bedroom as well. Now, I did want to stick with the same basic color scheme that I already have in that bedroom, which is kind of inspired by evening/nighttime beach vibes. So a lot of dark grays, some accents of black, and then of course blue for the ocean. Now, I did look at one of Brooklinen's brand new colors because they do come out with limited edition colors every season basically. So if you want to change up the vibe of your room by season, you can. I did look at this beautiful new color called Abyss that they had released, but in the end I decided that it was going to make my particular room look a little bit overly dark for my liking, so I ended up going with this beautiful blue tide color for my pop of blue. And then I decided, because I wanted a little bit of texture, to go with the graphite and steel Oxford stripe sheets as the underneath color. Now, this particular bundle includes one core sheet set, which is a fitted sheet, a flat sheet, and 2 pillowcases. So I did choose, like I said, the graphite and steel Oxford stripe for that. But this also includes an extra set of pillowcases, so I decided to go ahead and do the blue tide for those as well. And then of course the duvet cover I chose to do blue tide since I wanted that to be my top pop of color. Now, one of the things I really like about these Luxe Sateen sheets in particular is that they feature a luxurious 480 thread count and have a slightly luminous finish. You guys, this looks so much better than it did before, and it also feels really good to know that all of my future guests are going to be sleeping on way more comfortable sheets. And for a limited time, you guys, they are actually offering $20 off your purchase of $100 or more when you use code Aloha Plant at checkout. And I do have a link in the video description that you can use to go check them out. Okay guys, so let's go ahead and get right into potting all of this up, and I will start off with telling you all about how I ended up adopting Scooter. Let's see, where do we want to start? We've got Marble Queen Pothos cuttings, quite a few of them, because you know my Marble Queen Pothos grows like a weed. So we've got a lot of those. We've got a couple Rhaphidophora tetrasperma cuttings, which I had 3, but one of them is not started to root at all. These actually have like a decent amount of roots on them, so I don't know. They were in the same glass of water too, you guys. I don't know why like the other one hasn't started to develop roots. And guess what? We finally had another one of the Monstera standolianas, aka Monstera cobras, finally get some roots. I still have a ton though in that jar that just, it's like once a month, once every 2 months, one of them decides it's going to start to develop roots. I've put rooting hormone in there. I've done all kinds of things. I don't know. Those things drive me nuts. We have some Pearls and Jade Pothos to pot up as well. You know what? Why don't we start with, this is actually one of the most recent new plants that I had gotten. You guys have already been made aware of this one. I got it over the summer, or the very end of the summer maybe. This is the Hoya carnosa Wilbur Graves China. So I do have the big Russia version of this plant that I got at the Texas Aeroid Show back in October. But before that, about a month or so before that, I had gotten this one. And so this is just a slightly different version. It does come out of China. That's why it's called China. And the other one comes out of Russia. That's why it's called Russia. But I had gotten nervous because this was a plant that had just been cut and put into a pot of dirt at that plant swap where I got it. And it wasn't the type of substrate that I was used to. And I was just worried that I was going to have a problem. And I started losing the leaves because there were 2 leaves on it, this leaf here and another one, and I lost that leaf, and this leaf started looking like it was going to turn yellow, and I got nervous and panicked. And so I took it out of the pot and I put it in water to get some more roots. But basically from here up is all the roots it had when I took it out of the pot and put it into water. These are the new roots that have started to develop, and we do have new growth coming in now as well. So I feel pretty good about potting it up. We are just going to go back into the pot it came out of because it is a nice tiny little 2-inch pot here, and I don't really want to go any bigger than that considering the amount of roots we have on here. Now, everything we are potting up today, you guys, is going into my epiphyte mix because they are all epiphytic type plants. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started on this one and start telling you about Mr. Scooter, and I will explain his name as well as we go along. If you are a channel member, if you're on the membership levels, if you're a foliage friend or a botanical bestie, so those are the top 2 membership levels or tiers, whatever you want to call it, for the channel, you will have already gotten this story because I did do a members only video for you guys when I originally got him. So bear with me because you're going to have to hear this twice. But basically, you guys, over the course of Christmas, I was just sitting around and really missing Toby, thinking about my past cats, and I have always had an orange tabby since I became an adult and had pets on my own. I have always had an orange tabby cat, and my very first cat I got was a short-haired orange and white tabby named Ben, and then Toby was the last of 3 cats that I originally had as an adult. T-Tiny was my middle child, if you will, and she was a kind of medium furred black cat. And then I got Toby, and he made number 3, that he was my little baby. And I miss him so much, you guys. Like, I was just crying about it the other day. Like, it's just still random, like, burst into tears moments over, like, various things. If you've been through the unfortunate experience of losing a pet, I'm sure you can relate and understand what I mean. But I was just thinking about Toby, thinking about Ben, thinking about T-Tiny, and I was sitting on the couch, and Theo and George were snuggling on the couch with me, and I just turned to them and I just said out loud to them, I was like, I feel like there is a serious lack of orange fur in our lives. I'm missing the orange fur. We need more orange fur in this household. Now, as I was saying this out loud, you guys, I was not actually actively thinking, oh, I'm gonna go get an orange cat. Like, it was not like in my mind, I was just saying, I miss having orange fur. There's a serious lack of orange fur. But then I saw that I had some notifications on Facebook. And so I got on my phone to go check those notifications. And the second I opened Facebook, up pops a post from the rescue group that I got both Theo and George from. So that rescue group, I don't think I've ever told you all the name. It is Furry Friends Animal Rescue. And I believe I've told you guys they partner with PetSmarts in the area to help get the pets adopted, so that it is a foster program. They go rescue these pets from kill shelters, and then they take them into their foster program. And then once they've been vetted, you know, so once they're spayed, neutered, have all their shots, like everything's good to go, they list them for adoption on their website, and then they put some of them up in the cages at PetSmart so they have more visibility, because typically that will help to get them adopted more quickly. All right, you guys, just about got this one filled back in here and looking good. So I will water that here in a second, or when we're done filming this video. And I think we will go ahead, maybe we'll just do some of the Rhaphidophora, or do the 2 Rhaphidophora tetraspermas next. And I gotta be careful, because some of these are a little bit where the roots are coming in, like I need a really tall container. And so I want to just make sure that I'm not accidentally using one I need to use for a different plant, if that makes sense. But I think this is going to work well. This was one of the, I don't even know if I told you guys this, but one of the Monstera albos that I had in plant inventory had been doing fine. And I was actually thinking I was going to keep it for myself. And then out of nowhere, oh, I was like, I'm telling this story. I feel like I've told it before. No, I told you this story about my Thai constellation when the issue happened with the fertilizer burn. I was gonna say out of nowhere, this one developed root rot, and now I realize it was around the same time as the fertilizer burn situation. So that's probably what happened there, but that's why it has this label on it. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get this one started, and let me make sure height-wise, we are gonna be good. That one will definitely work. Okay, that's what I was worried about. This is the tallest one I have, and you can see how high these roots are up here in here. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use this one for this one instead, and hopefully, oh, it's really high. All right, you guys, I think what I'm going to have to do instead, this is gonna be a fun learning experience for you guys. Okay, I'm gonna have to cut this down because this is not a lot of roots. Like, actually, honestly, I don't even know if I should be taking it into a cup this big. So we are going to wait on this one, and then I will do what I was about to tell you I'm gonna do when we get back to that one, but I need to check my other options for cups. This one I think will be okay. Ideally, like, probably would want something slightly smaller than this, but this is also a pretty tall cutting as well, and I think we'll be okay with this. I think it should be fine, because once I pot these up, they usually tend to start to root a little bit more quickly in my experience. So I'm just gonna get this going. And so then, like I was saying, they put the pets up at PetSmart so that they have more visibility and everything. So, but normally I see the pets first on their Facebook posts, and this is what happened in this particular instance. So I opened up Facebook, I see this post from them of a pet that is up for adoption, and wouldn't you know, it is an adorable little long-furred orange and white tabby cat. And I was like, really? It's a sign, right? It's a sign. I didn't actually think it was a sign, you guys, but I did have that moment of, oh, wow, I was just thinking about missing orange fur, and here's this cute little orange and white long-haired tabby cat. Why don't we read what this cat's story is? So I started reading the story, and this poor little cat, you guys, so about 6 months old is what they said, and apparently when he was just a tiny, tiny kitten, he had been brought into a local shelter as an injured kitten, and they weren't exactly sure what had happened to him, but they thought maybe he had been hit by a car. So obviously he was out on the street, just was a stray. So they take him in and they start looking at his injuries, and they basically determined that they were going to have to amputate one of his back legs. It was just too far damaged, and it could also have been like, I don't know how long he had been injured before he had been brought in. So it could have been to a situation where it just had been sitting untreated long enough that it wasn't going to be repairable. But they made the decision they were going to have to remove his leg, and so they removed his leg. So then not too long after that, he got adopted by an Operation Kindness worker and taken home, and yay for him. I mean, real quick, like turnaround, right? And lots of times it's hard to get what's known as tripaw. So when dogs or cats have only 3 legs, they usually refer to them as tripaw, paw, P-A-W, right? Usually they're a little bit harder to get adopted. So everybody was like, great, awesome. This guy's already got a forever home. Well, a few months later, this Operation Kindness worker brings him back and says that their mom said they had to return him, but didn't offer up an explanation as to why. So now he's back at the shelter and nobody really understands why, right? I think maybe they were thinking because he has special needs, maybe the mom decided this is too much, to handle, or I don't know what they thought. But anyways, so yeah, nobody knows what was going on. So around this time, Theo and George's foster mom, they had the same foster mom in this program. I'm going to start in on another plant here. I think I'm going to start on some of the Marble Queen pothos. So they have the same foster mom. She went to the shelter because they just go up there kind of to see like if they have room for a cat in their house, because they all have different like size houses or like rooms. Cat rooms is really what they call them. Different size rooms to hold different number of cats and whatnot. But when they have space for one, they basically go to the shelters and they just look to see if there's cats that they can take in. They try to take ones that are coming up potentially for euthanasia. That's what happened in Theo's situation. He was one of the oldest cats at the shelter and he had been returned too, you guys. So somebody had adopted him prior to me adopting him, and then apparently within 24 hours they returned him claiming he attacked the dog, which basically means they probably didn't properly and slowly introduce him to the dog and vice versa. But yeah, so he came back to the shelter and he got really sick. So because he was one of the oldest cats in the shelter and the sickest, he was at the top of that list. So that's why his foster mom got him out of there. And like there was a lot of workers at the shelter who were just saying how sweet he was, and they were like terrified that was going to happen. And so she snatched him up out of there. And same thing with George. George was slightly older. They just didn't really have space. I think when their foster mom found him, he was in the part of the shelter where the exotic animals are. So he wasn't even with the cats because they didn't have room. So she snatched him up and took him home. And so she saw this cute little orange and white fluffy tabby and was like, what's his story? Got his story and was like, well, I'll take him. And so took him in and gets him home and lets him out of the cage. And that's when she discovers apparently his remaining back leg doesn't really fully function. Now, at this point, you got to remember, we don't have any idea what happened in the time that Operation Kindness worker had him, right? Let me see how many of these we have before I start putting too many in one pot, you guys. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, usually I like to do about 6, so I'm going to pull one from another jar here. At least 1. Maybe more. Okay, let me count real quick how many we have total, because if I don't, we're going to end up with like the last pot having like 2 cuttings or something. So let's see, over here we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then over here we've got 1, 2, 3, 1 that has not really produced roots at all. Lovely. That would be 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, we got like a lot. Okay. I am going to put this one that has not developed any roots at all yet. It does look like it's potentially going to start to try. This might die off though, so I'm going to put 2 more in here just in case that one dies off. So I'm not left with like some kind of funky hole, if you know what I mean. And then that'll be good for that one, and then we'll just split the rest of those up. Back to the story. So we don't know what happened with that Operation Kindness worker. We don't know like if she was just not letting him learn to walk on 3 legs, and not letting, but maybe carrying him around a lot or something. Or, I mean, we just don't know what the situation was. So we don't know if he was able at one point to be walking on 3 legs and then suddenly wasn't. We have no idea what the story is. But when he got to Lisa is her name. It's so weird to keep saying their foster mom's house. We got to Lisa's house and she let him out. He was not fully using the remaining back leg, and instead what he was doing was he was basically just scooting around on the floor, hence why she named him Scooter. So I read this and I'm just like, this poor little guy. And then she posted, like, she did 2 posts of him, which normally they just do 1 post and they include, you know, photos or whatever. But she did a post with photos and there was a video of him playing around on one of his favorite toys. And then she posted more videos of him, which I'm probably showing you right now, scooting around. And I'm sorry, but that is just the most adorable thing I've ever seen. Like, just, he gets around just fine, you guys. Like, he just scoots his way around. Like, that's just what he does. But her biggest concern when she saw that was, is he going to be able to use the litter box appropriately? Because if he couldn't use the litter box appropriately, then he would be deemed unadoptable and he would definitely be euthanized, which is horrible to think about. So I was extremely happy when I read that this poor little guy used the litter box just fine. But yeah, so I see this and I see that those videos and I'm just like, this guy is adorable. So I immediately start sharing this with like everybody I know, my family, like my friends. I'm like, look at this cute cat, like it's so adorable. And so yeah, but I didn't say anything like about like, oh, I want to adopt him or anything. And I was honestly wasn't thinking like, it still hadn't crossed my mind, even though I'd just been talking about missing orange fur in my life. It had not crossed my mind to be like, oh, I'm going to adopt this cat. Maybe I'll adopt this cat. Did not cross my mind. Once again, did have 3 cats back in the day, you guys, but I was still married back then. And taking care of 3 cats, like with somebody helping you, is a lot different than trying to take care of 3 cats when it's just you. But yeah, so, you know, partially in my mind, like I had thought about like, well, would I ever want to get a 3rd cat? But like, that was my concern. I was like, it might be a bit much with it just being me. This one's good to go. I'm starting on the next one. And so I was just kind of like, whatever. I wasn't really thinking about it. But then, I don't know, you guys, over Christmas, I guess I had some piece of wood being stored in there. Did not realize. Over Christmas, I just kept thinking about him and I kept going back and rewatching those videos like over and over and over again. And so finally on New Year's Day, and at this point I didn't know who had him. I knew he was in their foster program, but I didn't know if he was with Theo and George's foster mom or some other foster parent or what. So I basically reached out to Lisa and I said, hey, I can't stop watching the videos of this cutie patootie. Is he one of yours or is he with another one of the foster parents? And she texted back and was like, oh, he's one of mine. And before I had said anything else, she's like, no application needed if you want to add a 3rd to the mix. Like, basically, like, come take him. And I was like, oh, okay, hold on, slow down. Slow down 1 second, right? And so I basically told her my hesitations of, I had 3 before, but I'm kind of like, is it going to be a bit much with it just being me? And then also I have the plants now. And so, you know, if I get one and he turns out to be a terror with the plants, what am I going to do? It's going to be me trying to keep him and Theo out of plants all the time. But I was like, all right, well, look, I don't know. I was like, can I just come meet him? Can I just come meet him, please? Like, really just wanted to meet this cat. Because also, I didn't know, like, maybe I would meet him and we wouldn't hit it off. Like, he wouldn't be, like, as interested in me, or maybe, like, he just, you know, it's just kind of like when you meet people. Sometimes you hit it off, sometimes you don't. So she was like, sure, but I don't have him up at PetSmart because he has special needs. She didn't want him up in the cages up there. She's like, but I know you well now after adopting 2 of my previous cats that I was fostering. She's like, you just come out to my house and meet him. So we arranged for me to go meet him a few days after that. And I got there and I walked into her cat room. And of course, there's just a ton of cats in the cat room. And, you know, everybody kind of starts coming up to you when you go into a room in that situation. And so everybody starts coming up, but she had him in, like, she has these boxes from Costco that the cats like, she flips them on their side and they like to use them as a bed because they're kind of covered. So it's kind of like their safe space. So she gets all these boxes from Costco and puts blankets in them. So he was right by the door when I came in, laying in one of those boxes, and I just sat down on the floor next to the box. And all these other cats are starting to walk towards me from other parts of the room. And he just crawls out of his little box right into my lap and just snuggles up and just starts staring at me and is purring. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so getting another cat. I am so getting another cat. Like, I knew in that instance I was getting another cat. Now, I still had questions for her. let me count these real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We'll put one more in here. I think we'll be okay. 1, 2, 3, 6. Yeah. All right. Just gonna start filling this one back in. So yeah, I was asking her questions about him and like, you know, the litter box issues, and then also asking her more questions about like, well, do you have any idea what might be the issue with the remaining back leg? Like, I was just trying to get some information. Like, I was also concerned about like, is it going to cause him like lots of problems in the long run that I need to be taking into consideration? Just, I was trying to make sure like I had a full understanding of everything I was facing for him being special needs, if that makes sense. So we get to talking, and like while we're talking, this other cat starts to crawl up, like put her paws up on my shoulder, and Scooter, who had just been laying there all cool with the cats walking up to me, that one, I guess she got a little too close for his liking, and he started growling at her like, no, this one's mine. She's taking me home and not you. It was really cute. And then he got up at one point to go, because I think I had picked up a toy and was trying to play with him. He got up and he stood fully up on the back leg, you guys. Like, it was fully extended, and even his foster mom was like, whoa, that's kind of the highest he's ever gotten up on it. Like, I don't know, part of me is like, maybe he was just trying to impress me. Like, no, look, I can stand on this. I can make it work. I can make it work if I want to make it work, kind of a situation. But he got really high up on it. So it's not like he can't use it at all. And she confirmed, like, he does fine. Like, he was climbing in and out of the litter box okay. He's able to stand up on it to go to the bathroom so that he's not like, you know, getting bathroom mess all over himself from dragging like his butt through the litter or anything while he's using the bathroom, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it was like, it's functional, you guys, it's functional. So now there's just this big question of like, why wasn't he using it? But she's like, well, he's doing fine. Like, he can get up on this table. She's like, anything he can get his claws on to use to climb, he can get up on it. Like tall, like the cat perches that I have in my bedroom for George and Theo, he can get up on those, you guys. So basically, I just sit there and I'm like cuddling this little guy, and finally I was like, all right, you're coming home with me. And she was like, well, take him on trial, which is what I had done with George too, because Theo is like a very rough player, or at least I thought he was gonna be a super rough player, and he is sometimes, but I was just worried about how that dynamic was gonna work, and we know it worked out fine. So I was actually prepared to be like, oh, I'll just take him, we don't need to do a trial. But she was like, no, just do a trial. And I do remember, because before I even went to see him, let me see if I want to put these ones in a smaller pot. I don't know. We'll see what it looks like. But I remember before I even went to see him, I was like Googling like life with a tripod cat and like things you need to be aware of, things you need to know. And then I also was looking up like life with a paralyzed cat, because once again, like, we don't know why he's not using that back leg. So I was like, well, what if he totally does lose the use of that back leg, like completely? Like, what am I going to be facing? And I did read that you have to be a little bit careful with bringing cats like that into your home if you already have other animals, because sometimes the other animals might get very dominant or territorial and to see that that cat is not quite right and take it as a, oh, you're weak, and I'm going to try to take you out of the equation. And so I didn't think that was going to happen. I'm just making sure these all fit right. Yeah, this will do. I didn't think that was going to happen with Theo and George, you guys, but like, she was like, you know, there's always a possibility something could go wrong. So she's like, just take him on trial first and let's just see how it goes. So I bring him home and I get him here, and I left him in the cage. I let the boys come sniff at him and sniff him in the cage and kind of be like, oh, what's going on? I think it actually really helped, you guys, that he came from Lisa's house, because both George and Theo, once again, had been in that house for a while. So they probably recognized the smell of her house. So I think that helped, because they definitely like, well, I don't know how, well, when I got George home here, remember, he was the new guy. And so he ran and hid under the couch for most of the first week. He spent his life under the couch. And he didn't really, you know, he was kind of just like scared of Theo, I guess. But like Theo was very like growly, hissy towards George when I first brought him home. Here I go with the inhaling the dust again, you guys, making me cough. But yeah, so Theo was really hissy and everything at George when I first got him home. But George had been up at PetSmart, so he didn't still smell like Lisa's house. So I get the cage in here, and he's just in the cage. Scooter was fine. He just sit in the cage like, whatever, there's cats. I just came from a house with like 20 in one room, you know? So he's like, what's two? So they're just sniffing the cage and everything, and nobody's like hissing or growling. And then George runs and hides. He just ran away and hid, basically. And so then I took him into my office, since I do have like glass doors where I could close them off. Kind of like with George, I'd kept him in the upstairs living room that has glass doors for the first few weeks he was here. So he had like a safe space when they weren't fully bonded yet to go, so that Theo wouldn't be like growling and hissing at him all the time. But because Scooter can't really do stairs, I was like, well, I'll just set him up down in my office. So I take him in there, I let him out of the cage. I will say Theo was very polite. He did not really hiss or growl at him at all. In general, he has been much nicer to Scooter than he was to George when I brought George home. Now, I don't know if maybe that's because he recognizes that there's something wrong with him, that he's different, and also that he's younger, you know what I mean? So maybe that's what it was, but it still was not like we're bonded and getting along at first sight. It's definitely happened way quicker with them two than it did with George and Theo. That took like almost a month before those two would like accept one another. But basically George wanted to have nothing to do with Scooter. For like the first week, he wouldn't even be in the same room with him. He wasn't really like, if Scooter acted like he was going to walk towards him, George would kind of like growl, maybe like hiss, and then he'd leave the room, kind of a situation. And George and Theo, though, became very growly and hissy with each other and me. So I didn't have this problem when I brought George home. I could pick Theo up and he was fine. But the second I brought Scooter home, I go to pick up George. George is like hissing and growling at me. I go to pick up Theo, he's hissing and growling at me. George and Theo would just randomly pass each other, like in the kitchen or the living room, and just hiss at each other. Like, I keep telling people, I feel like they were like, it's your fault she brought another cat home. No, it's your fault she brought another cat home. It was crazy. But it has all died down now. George will be in the same room as Scooter, and Scooter and Theo definitely are getting along, although Scooter is giving Theo a run for his money. I will explain in a bit. But yeah, so get him home, and everything's going okay. Like, he's using his litter box fine. And I'm just watching him, you guys, walking around on this, or scooting around, I guess I should say, on this leg, and I just can't figure it out. I'm just like, is it choice? Is it by choice? Maybe he just decided, like, why work harder when I can work smarter, and all my floors are hard floors, so he just, like, scoots his way around instead of trying to learn how to walk on 3 legs, you know? And so, yeah, I just kept thinking, like, well, it doesn't seem like it's a physical issue because he can get pretty high up on it. And then the first time I ran the vacuum cleaner, you guys, he got all the way up on that back leg and he ran. Does not like the vacuum cleaner at all. He full-fledged ran with that leg up, almost all the way extended. Not totally, but pretty dang close. So he can use it. So now the question became, why isn't he using it? All right, you guys, we will get to that here in a second. I'm going to go ahead and water these ones that we did real quick. And then what I want to do is take a brief break to actually go fully introduce you to Scooter. Then we will come back in here and continue potting up, and I will finish telling you what I have discovered about his back leg since. So here he is, you guys. He's being a cute little roly-poly right now. He's wanting his belly rubbed. He loves his belly rubs. And he also absolutely loves to sit on my lap while I'm working in my office. And I mean, for hours at a time. He will just lay there and sleep. And it gets a little bit uncomfortable for me, but I mean, how am I going to say no to all of this cuteness? You're just so adorable. Look at you. You're just trying to be even cuter because I'm putting you on camera, aren't you? You're going to be that kind of cat, huh? Yeah. Kisses? Oh, thank you. So he does like to give kisses, just like Toby did. That was a little bit of a nibble, sir. I don't know what that was. But as you can see, just super precious, super sweet, fluffy little guy, long little fluffy orange tail. And he is, like I said, a bit more of a buff color than an orange color. He's definitely like a lighter color than Toby was. But I love the markings on his face too. If you'll look at us, Scoots. His little white marking that goes all the way around his face. So adorable. And what are you doing? You sniffing my foot? We don't need my foot in this video, for sure. But you guys, he has just really impressed me. I said earlier that he wouldn't be able to use the stairs because his foster mom told me that, but he takes the stairs like a champ. He practically sprints down them. Now going up is a little bit trickier, a little bit more tiring. You're so goofy. but he definitely like can do it. He can go up them. He can get up on the couch by himself just fine. He can pretty much get up on most things. I did buy him some stairs for my bed just because the way the frame sticks out, it would be a little bit awkward for him, and he figured out how to use those right away, and so he uses those to get up on the bed, but he does not use them to get off. He can jump off of almost anything, okay? He sees birds outside right now, so he's gonna go inspect. Or maybe it was a squirrel. He likes to sit there and kind of do this weird chirping thing at birds and squirrels, but definitely happy to have him as part of the family now. The little tail just flicking away over there. And he's just so cute. And I haven't had a kitten in so long, I forgot what it's like. And now I'm kind of like, don't get big. Stay nice and tiny and small. But he's going to get bigger because obviously he's only 6 months old. But I'm sure you're just going to get even cuter and more handsome. You're such a ham. All right. Well, we'll leave you to your silly doings because we've got to finish potting up some more plants. All right, guys. So I'm going to start in using just one of my little 2-inch. This is actually what one of the Epiphymenum mandulas, because reminder, I did combine all of the mandulas I had into one for myself. This is one of the cups that one of those was in. So I'm going to use this for this guy. But as you can see, we only have a few little roots and this is really long and going to be in the way. So I'm going to grab my snips real quick and we are just going to trim that down a little bit. Okay, just going to cut it right about here. And since this isn't a super thick stem, I'm not really worried about potting this up right after cutting it. If it was something really thick, such as this guy right here, then I would definitely definitely would want to let it callus over. And I do have another thing of our epiphyte mix here. So, and let me move this to this side though so you guys can see a little bit better what I am doing. So back to Scooter's remaining back leg. So I did end up taking him to my vet to basically get an opinion on what was going on there. And he said that as far as he could tell, now obviously he was trying to bend and extend the leg just to see if it seemed like there was any kind of discomfort for him, like when he was using it, trying to figure out if maybe it was like a pain thing or something like that. But of course, when a cat's at a vet and the vet is trying to forcibly extend and bend his leg, the cat is going to express some displeasure. Most cats anyway are going to express some displeasure, which is exactly what Scooter did. Now, I do want to say he is a very good boy at the vet, and it was kind of funny because his growl, if you will, you guys, like the vet actually had to look at the vet tech that was helping him and go, is he growling? And the vet tech's like, I think so. And the vet's like, that's the weirdest growl I've ever heard in my life. Seriously, I'll try to imitate it for you now, guys. But it's not really a growl. It was more like a grumbling old man, if you will. Like, he was like, like, it was weird. I've never heard a cat like do that before. But so everybody was like, well, that's pretty freaking cute for a growl. But my point is, he was expressing his displeasure in them touching his back leg, which it's the only leg he's got left back there. So of course he's not going to be happy that he's touching it, right? He's like, dude, that's the only one I got left. Let's leave it alone. So he didn't think that, he said he didn't feel anything that felt off when he was extending it, but he couldn't say for sure if it wasn't just a discomfort thing. And then he was like, well, we could do x-rays. And the thing is like, you would think there were x-rays from when he was injured and everything that would give us a better idea. Records are missing, you guys. And that's the other thing. The Operation Kindness worker that adopted him lost his records because they give you the records, the rabies shot record, everything to take home with you and say, put it in a safe place. She lost it. So they also had to re-vaccinate Scooter like a few months after he had already been vaccinated for all of his vaccines. I was like, isn't that dangerous? The vet said, not always, but he was like, he seems to be fine. Don't worry about it. So I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, we got this guy potted up and I do see that it is putting out a new leaf. And by the way, you guys, the way I know now, like I don't even look to see if roots are forming on these because all of the leaves, let me grab the other ones because this will make more sense if I show it to you. 1 second. So basically all of the leaves curled up at the time that I put these into water because there were no roots to basically keep these leaves firm. But every now and again, I know one has gotten roots because as you can see on this one, it had started to uncurl. And before we potted it up, it was even a little bit less curl than that. Now I do find once I pot them up, they start to curl a little bit more until the roots get used to the soil and start to spread around, and then it opens back up again. So basically that's how I know when there's one that's ready to be potted up. I just look at this jar of rolled up limp leaves, and if one is suddenly sticking upright like this and unrolling, I know it's developed roots. I'm gonna put these back real quick. Okay, set this guy aside, and I think I will start in, I have a few of my Philodendron cordatum, like when I was repotting it a while back, I accidentally snapped off. I guess I accidentally, I don't think I snapped it off. I don't know. A vine had just popped off. One of the newer vines, that's why the leaves are relatively small. So I put these into water and I think they're ready to go. So I'm going to do these next, just probably all together because I don't think there's that many, and I'm spilling water everywhere, but that's okay. So yeah, the records were lost. So I couldn't even, like, we couldn't even find like previous x-rays or anything like that so that the vet could like compare it to that. And so he was like, well, we can do x-rays just to make sure that everything's normal. Oh my gosh, you guys, the lighting is like getting funky. I almost didn't film this video today because it was so cloudy all morning, and then the sun came out, but now like a cloud just passed over. I'm sure you're seeing crazy shifts in the light, so my apologies. But back to our story. So yes, the vet was like, we can take x-rays and just make sure there's not something abnormal going on, like with how the bones developed or something like that, that's making it to where like he can't use the leg normally. And I was like, you know, x-ray is kind of expensive, but whatever. I was like, yeah, let's just do it. So we have a starting point, because my concern, you guys, is if it's something that can be fixed, I don't know if fixed is the right word, but like if it's something that like maybe some physical therapy, or just if it's something where he just needs some help learning how to use the leg correctly and learning how to walk on 3 legs correctly, I don't want to wait too long to do anything because he still is young enough that the bones are still forming. So I feel like the longer he doesn't use it, the more difficult it might be for him to actually be able to use it. So I was like, let's just go ahead and get the x-rays and let's see what's going on, and then let's go from there. Because basically what I was thinking was like, if the x-rays are normal, then I was thinking, let's just see about going to a physical therapist, because my friends Chris and Megan, they go to the same vet as I do. And they had their dog Bailey in physical therapy for years because he blew out both of his Achilles basically, and they couldn't do surgery because he had autoimmune issues and things like that. So they've been going to physical therapy for years, and they love that place. So I was like, all right, well, let's just see what we're working with so that, you know, I can get him help if he needs to learn how to like use this leg correctly. I don't know why I'm like dropping all this on the counter when our intention was to put it in this tray. So he's like, all right, we'll do the x-rays. So he does the x-rays. At this point, everybody in the vet's office has like met him and is in love with him and keeps coming into the room and telling me how adorable he is and what a good boy he is and all this other stuff. So yes, he definitely is like a vet favorite. I think we're just going to take this into a little 3-inch pot here. And so he comes back from getting the x-rays, like Scooter's like really not phased at all, which is good. He wasn't like growling or hissing or anything like that. So that was good, because that was my biggest concern. Because my first cat I had as adult Ben, the one time he had to have an x-ray done, it was game over. Like he was like, what the heck is this? And he was a nightmare to take to the vet after that. He was a saint before that. Everybody loved him. They would just let him walk around up on the countertop at the checkout point, and just everybody would love all over him. And that one time, he had a freak out, and he almost got himself banned from being able to go to a vet. He was so bad, you guys. They had to put him in like the equivalent of a cat straitjacket to be able to see him. It was just ridiculous. At home, you would never know that he was that way at all. But anyway, so I was worried kind of like how it was going to go with Scooter, but he did fine. So the vet comes back and says, well, you know, he's still young, so there's still bones forming. And he said basically there's a growth plate at the front of his knee that looks like it's not fully fused, and it looks like it's a pretty big gap for his age. But then the vet did say he looked it up and that it can take up to 2 years in some cats to fully form. And so he said that was one area that he was kind of not certain about. And remember, he's just a regular vet. He's not like an orthopedic vet, so he's not a specialist in this. So he really wanted to just look at these x-rays to see if there was anything blatantly, obviously like out of whack that would explain why he wasn't using the leg. But so he said that was kind of like hard for him to say if it was definitely just because of the type of cat he is or whatever, and if it would develop fine as he got older or not. And then he said that where the top of his leg connects, where the femur connects into the actual hip socket, he said it looks a little bit off. Now, he said it doesn't look so abnormal that he thinks this is the issue, right? But he said it just looks not quite as normal as it should be, to the point that he couldn't say for certain if that could be the issue, but he said it would be worth it to probably have an orthopedic vet look at it. So that is what the next step is going to be. He did give me a recommendation. He also gave me the referral for the physical therapist. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and, now that he's taken those x-rays, have him send them to that orthopedic vet and schedule an appointment and kind of get an opinion on what he thinks about it. And then from there, if he thinks there's no real reason that he shouldn't be able to use that back leg, what I'm probably going to do is start him in physical therapy so that we can just try to get him to where he'll actually use it. Because once again, you guys, I don't know, it could just be choice. He could have just decided it's easier to scoot around than to try to learn how to walk on 3 legs. But I just, like I said, I don't want to let it go too long and then it be like, so what's the word I'm looking for? So what do you call that when you stop using, like if you have a cast on your leg and you can't use your leg for a while and it becomes, if I remember, I will flash it up on screen for you guys, but basically I just don't want it to become where he can't use it because it hasn't been getting used, if that makes sense. So that's kind of where we're at with that. He still has a little bit of a kitty cold. So if you saw him in the Syngonium video recently, you would have heard him sneezing. He is wandering into the kitchen right now. Hello. Please don't mess with the tripod. Hold on, you guys. Let me make sure he's not going to get caught on one of the cords. All right, so that is another thing. I have to be really careful with cords because he's not lifting that foot up when he's walking around. So if he scoots across something like a cord, it hooks onto his foot. And he pulled the whole camera tripod over a few weeks ago. And so I was like, oh my God. Like, I was really worried he'd broken the camera. I would have like, oh my gosh, not a cheap camera, you guys. But camera was fine, cat was fine, everybody was fine. Okay, this plant is also fine and potted up. Set that one aside. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at with that. So I'll keep you guys updated on what happens with that. I will let you know right now. So like I said, him and Theo are getting along okay, but Theo likes to roughhouse, like just wrestle play, but kind of rough. He tries to do it with George and George doesn't like it. So George like runs away. He tried to do it with Scooter the first time and I do not think he was expecting what happened. So they were on the back of the couch and Scooter, they were kind of like, Scooter was facing this way, Theo was behind him this way, and he starts trying to roughhouse with him, and Scooter just flops completely backwards, and his head ended up underneath Theo's belly in the process, and he just starts roughhousing right back at Theo like crazy. And Theo was just like, what the heck is going on? What is this? Because he's used to George not fighting back. And so now Scooter sometimes tries to go start roughhousing with Theo, and Theo is not exactly the biggest fan of it when he is not the one starting it. It cracks me up. So like I said, I think he's going to give Theo a little bit of a run for his money. Now, George, on the other hand, we have made progress. We sat on the couch together all last night. I had Theo draped across my legs, George butt up against this side of my hip, and I had Scooter on this side of my hip, and we were all fine, no hissing, no nothing. So I think we're gonna be okay. We just haven't really had full-fledged snuggles. Like I haven't caught him snuggling with any of the other cats yet. Him and Theo will lay next to each other. George has not gotten more than a foot close to him, and he's still kind of just skeptical of him, but like I think he's coming around and I think everything is gonna be fine. So that is good. He is no longer on trial. I've already told his foster mom that, you know, we're officially keeping him and everything. Where are you just scooting all around? Do not mess with that plant, sir. And that's the next thing we're gonna have to talk about, Scooter and the plants. All right, let's get another plant, speaking of plants, going here. So on these pearls and jade pothos, there is like, one of the vines that I had to cut was one of the reverting vines. So that's why we've got a bunch of solid green leaves here. So ideally what I want to do, because those likely will not put out variegated leaves again, I want to try to pot those up by themselves so I can just sell this as a jade pothos, if you will. That's basically what it is, but I'll still probably label it as a reverted pearls and jade just so people know, because I don't want people like if it did start to throw variegation again, I don't want people being like, what the heck, is it sport variegation or whatever? So I'll call it a reverted pearls and jade, but is likely just going to look like a jade pothos moving forward. But I don't want to do a mix, because I don't want to like do half of these that are really variegated and then the solid green and be like, oh yeah, here's what, because these are going to keep growing green. I don't do people that way, you guys. It's not who I am. So let's see how many of the solid green ones we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This one has like just a little bit on the edge, but I'm going to call that solid green. So 7. This one still has a little bit of variegation, so I might just pot that up with one of the other ones. Let's see, because 7's a lot. Let's see how many we have in total. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. That's a lot. Okay, yep, we're just gonna... we'll figure those out here in a second. I'm gonna get these going first, and I think I might go into a 3-inch pot. Do I have room in a 3-inch? Nope, we're not doing that. We're going into a 4-inch pot with these again. Once again, just in the epiphyte mix. All right, so plants. So if you are a foliage friend or botanical bestie member of the channel, I did tell you guys in that video that he was being pretty good with the plants, that when I first let him out of the cage in the office, he went up and sniffed on and tried to bite on the Pilea caderii, so my aluminum plant, which is non-toxic, but I was like, no, 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 we don't mess with plants, and kind of scooted his booty out of there. And then we were fine. So I told you guys in that video, I thought we were gonna be fine. I'm telling you what, you guys, it's kind of like how I got Theo home and he was a nice chill cat for like the first 2 weeks he was here, and then he turned into a wild child. It's like they know when they figure out, oh, I'm not going anywhere. Like, this is my pad now. This is my life. Suddenly they start acting a little bit differently. So in the last like week, Scooter has been freaking driving me nuts. He has now become the worst with the plants. And it started just like with that one, and then he was chewing on the rattlesnake calathea that I have in my office, which once again, non-toxic, so it's like at least we're chewing on non-toxic ones. But then out of nowhere, he started going after the schismatoglottis. Now on that one, I was thinking maybe he was just because he saw Theo doing it, because you know that's one of Theo's favorite plants to chew on. And I finally figured out, you guys, I think I know why he's attracted to it, and I think I know why Scooter was attracted to it too. It guttates so much. I tell you guys all the time, I have more problems with guttation on that plant than any other ones. So it's constantly got water dripping off its leaves, and I think that attracts them to it because they're like, oh, water. And then they chew on it, because I've noticed too that when he started chewing on other of my plants, he was going for the ones that tend to guttate. So I think that's what it is. So I've had to do some like rearranging of things. I think I might just have to get rid of my schismatoglottis, you guys. Like, either that or I'm gonna have to like get a plant stand and put it somewhere. I don't know, we'll figure it out. But like, it's just getting a little bit much. But the second plant that he tried to chew on was my Rhophidophora tetrasperma in my bedroom, which was one of the first ones Theo tried to chew on too, but it made him sick. The first time he did it, he threw up, and the little bit of leaf that he had chewed on. So he kind of stopped messing with it. Scooter has not thrown up any leaves so far that he's chewed on, which is kind of concerning to me. But I've caught him pretty quickly with everyone he's tried to do. I'm gonna have to, I know a lot of you don't approve of the spray bottle method with cats, and I know a lot of you do approve of the spray bottle method. I have tried that with my cats in the past. It worked with my 2 oldest ones. Toby didn't care about getting wet. I mean, he hopped in the shower every day, you guys, and got soaking wet. So spray bottle did not work for him, but luckily he was good about the plants. Like, I had needed the spray bottle for other things for him when he was a kitten. But anyways, I might have to try to do this with Scooter, because he's going after a lot of them, and his new one that he's been going after in the last few days is the Monstera, the big Monstera that I sit in front of when I'm filming all the time. I'm just like, why? And he's eaten quite a bit of it. I'm seriously surprised, because honestly, guys, what's in those plants that's toxic, like, also irritates their mouth and the lining of their stomach. That's why usually they'll stop chewing on it, or they'll throw it up, and then hopefully they learn their lesson when they throw it up. Oh, that's what made me sick. And like, so I would think he would not be able to eat that much of the leaf. Like, it wasn't a ton, you guys. Like, he's fine. But like, he keeps going back over there, and I'm like, let's just leave it alone. Let's just leave it alone. Like, leave it alone. Come on. So I moved the tetrasperma onto a plant stand. so that he can't get it. Basically, I took my zebra plant, my Aphelandra squarosa, I don't know where my brain went there for a second. I took it off of the plant stand in my bedroom and put it on the floor because its leaves, like it's so tall and the leaves are so far up, he can't get to them. And I put the Rhaphidophora on the stand. So that stopped that. I do move almost all of the plants that are on the floor in my bedroom at night because they are all now sleeping in the bedroom with me at night. I move them into, you guys, what am I doing? Leaving one out. I was like, why is there a big bald spot in the middle here? Smooth move, Drea. There we go. So I've been moving them into my bathroom and closing them in there just because I'm worried he's going to start messing with them in the middle of the night. So that's kind of resolved the issue in there, except that he is chewing on the Tenanthe luberciana, which once again, at least is non-toxic. But yes, I wake up every morning to him chewing on that Tenanthe luberciana and I'm not happy about it. So we're going to have to like figure something out with this. The Monstera is the biggest issue right now though, because he will do it during the day when I am like in the living room looking at him. I'm like, come on, dude, let's not do this. And then a few nights ago, he climbed up into the pot of the Monstera and I was like, whoa, what are we about to do in the pot? Like I was like, do not use the bathroom in the Monstera, please. So I got him out of there real quick. He can climb really well. Like I said, you guys, like he does not let his disability keep him down in the slightest. But like, I was like, no, 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 we don't need to get in the plant. I think I scared him because I was like, what are you doing? And so hopefully he won't try to do that again. I don't know. That was weird. I've never had, like, Theo and George have never tried to get in there, but they're bigger. He's still small enough to get in. So as he gets bigger, like, that shouldn't be an issue. All right, this one is good to go. Let's start in on another one. They're all just going to go into these 4-inch pots here. But yeah, so I don't know. I thought he was going to be good with the plants. I'm trying to think. Like, he's been okay with some of the ones in the kitchen, really. Every now and again, he'll go up to the carts. He does like to try to steal pieces of bark and bat it around on the floor, like Theo does, and like George won't steal the bark himself, but if Theo steals it, he'll play with it. But yeah, so not exactly happy about that, like I said, but we'll figure it out. Like if I have to like get more plant stands or whatever, I'll figure it out. If I have to purge some plants, I have to purge some plants. Once again, the ones that like, the one that would be the biggest problem for me is the Monstera. Like I don't want to get rid of my Monstera. I don't really need it on a stand where it is. It's already taking up enough space. But we'll figure it out. Ones that I might have to get rid of, like for example, this Schismatoglottis, whatever. It's not like I love my Apobolus, which looks really similar to it. I actually like my Apobolus even more because of the reddish purplish backsides to the leaves. So like if I had to get rid of the Schismatoglottis, I would not be like heartbroken. You know what I mean? So we'll figure out what we're gonna do with that. But all in all, things are going really well. And I definitely love having orange fluffy fur back in my life, you guys. And he is definitely a super sweetheart. Like I said, like he is just so sweet. He's so cute. I can't even. And even though he is still a kitten, because I know I had told you guys when I got like George and Theo, part of the appeal was that they were older and more learned. He is a really well-behaved kitten and he sleeps through the night, which Toby never, ever. The lack of sleep, you guys, that I got when he was a kitten, I mean, all the way probably up till he was 5 years old. I mean, it was crazy. But Scooter is really good. He sleeps through the night. Awesome. Fabulous. Okay. Let's get these. I already forgot how many of the actual still variegated ones I have. And we have another one where for some reason it has got no roots. All right, we got 1, 2, go with 3, 4, 5. These are smaller leaves, so I might end up putting a few more in here than I normally do. Let's see what we got left. So that's 5. I'm going to put this one in the middle to fill in nicely. So then over here we got 1, 2, 3, untangle, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, so I think we'll put one more in here and that'll be good. All right. So yeah, so that is the story and the introduction to Scooter. I am leaving his name as Scooter because, I mean, what else am I going to call him? It fits him perfectly. I will say our last family cat was named Scooter as well. Now, I say our family cat. I mean, he's our family cat, right? Because my parents' cat. But at the time, I was already in college. So I was really only spending time with that cat when I was back home. And I went away for college, like I wasn't nearby. But my sister was still in high school, so she was a lot closer to that cat than I was. And obviously my parents were much closer to that cat than I was, just because I didn't get to see him as often. Big old fluffy orange, more buff colored, same kind of color as Scooter is, a Maine Coon cat. And so I had to check with my family to make sure I could leave his name Scooter, because I was worried it was going to upset everyone. And my sister at first was like, well, isn't it going to upset you? And I was like, not totally. Plus I call him Scoots, like for short. You know what I mean? So 9 times out of 10, I'm like, Scoots, where are you? Hey, Scoots. Scoots Badoots has become the other nickname. My sister was joking about how she was going to call him Boot Scoot and Boogie. But anyways, so she wasn't exactly happy about it, but she was like, I'll just call him by his nickname if it makes me feel like sad or whatever. So she was like, no, it's fine. So officially I'm calling him Scooter Scoots, but officially he's Scooter Jr., which once again, I realize Scooter or Jr. implies biological, but it's a cat, okay? We're just gonna roll with it. I don't like how Scooter the Second sounds. So we're rolling with it, and he is going to remain Scooter, because I just kept thinking about other names that I could call him, and nothing really fit appropriately. All right, that one's good to go. One more left. All right. So in other news, I did get a new plant, which I am going to be showing you shortly. I feel like somehow I grabbed all the super chunky stuff. Like I didn't mix it well enough, and now this is very not super chunky. But hopefully it's okay. Okay, so in other news, I did finally, because I got my car back and everything, as you know, I was finally able to do another pop-up shop. I haven't done one since October, I think. So I did another one at a local plant swap again. It went about as well as the last time. And then while I was there, luckily this time I got finished getting set up early enough to walk around and look at some of the other vendors' spaces and see what kind of plants they had for sale. And I know I had told you guys in my Syngonium video that if the person that I bought my red spot tricolor Syngonium from had more at that event, that I might buy some more, because I wanted to make it like a fuller plant, fuller pot. She was there, she did not have any. There were a couple other vendors that had some, but like they just didn't look fantabulous, like in terms of like the variegation and everything, and they were a little bit higher priced than what I had bought from her previously. And so I was kind of like, okay, well, I guess I won't get one. But it was nice to actually have time too, just to walk around and see what everybody else was selling, what they were pricing their plants at, so I knew if I was pricing things appropriately and whatnot. So usually at these events, I don't really go to swap, although I did back in June swap. That's how I ended up with my escaletos that you are going to get to see here again. You haven't seen them since June. You're gonna get to see them here again soon in the upcoming LECA video that I'm doing for you guys, because that experimentation has been going well, and I think I'm ready to make the video with before and afters for you now. All right, I think this is going to work like this. So we'll start filling this back in. So yeah, but usually I don't go to swap, because lots of times there's just not stuff I want. But while I was sitting there selling my plants, I look up and they had set up a table in the middle of the room inside, and they were somebody put up a sign that said free. So the impression was this was the table of like plants people just wanted to unload and didn't necessarily want to swap for, or you just go drop your free plant off, and if you saw one you liked, you pick it up or whatnot. But then I saw like somebody set down like a whole tray of plants that looked pretty nice. So I was like, are they all free? And then everybody kept asking me, they're like, are all those actually free or just the ones by the free sign? I was like, I don't know. But then I looked up and I saw a Syngonium that we had been talking about in that Syngonium video, which I had filmed the day before. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is totally that plant. Now I wanted to know if everything on that table was free or not. So finally I flag a guy down who I thought I had seen talking to the girl who set the tray of plants down. And I said, hey, who does that belong to? You know, are they looking to swap? And he went and found her, and she was like, oh, this is just plants I want to unload. I mean, honestly, like, yeah, you can just take it. And I was like, are you serious right now? Like, and I was like, are you sure you don't want to swap? Like, you know, and she's like, I'm really trying to like downsize. She's like, I don't know. And she started looking at my plants, and she was like, maybe something small. And so she picked up like the baby Soderoy, like the smallest little Soderoy plant I had. And she's like, how about we just try to trade for this? I was like, yeah, sure, fine, great. So that is how I became the proud new owner of a Wishlist plant, which I am going to grab to show you here as soon as I finish filling this in, because we are just about done getting this one filled in. Okay, yeah, I think that one's good. Okay, and actually real quick before I show you that Wishlist plant, so we do only have Ugh. Let me rinse my hands off real quick. Okay, so we do only have a few more plants to pot up. We have a Philodendron verrucosum propagation here that has started to finally get some nice roots going on there. And then we also have this last Rhiphidophora that we put off for a second. So I want to talk about this real quick because, okay, so here's what we're gonna do. So we're not actually gonna pot this up in this video today because we need to make an adjustment to this first. And that's why I was gonna leave that jar over here. My brain is all over the place. Give me one more second. Oh, actually, no. You know what? We could probably use one of these. Oh, that'll work perfect. But I'm gonna put some fresh water in it. So this is one of the jars that the pearls and jade root's in, but it looks a little funky. So let me get some fresh water. Okay, guys, so what we're going to do, because this little minimal amount of root that we have going on in here, I mean, it's not crazy minimal. It's enough to pot it up, but it's not enough to warrant putting it into like a really large pot, and I would have to go to something taller than this to make this work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna cut this down lower so that I can put this in a shorter pot and hopefully a pot with less circumference. Really, ideally, possibly something like this if I cut it down enough, although I think we're gonna use this for the verrucosum, but you get my drift. But because, once again, like I was saying earlier, this is so thick stemmed, I do not want to immediately pot this up. I want to let that in callus over. Now the problem with doing this at this point is I've already got roots up here. I also don't want to stick this directly back in water because same problem. I could develop rot by not letting it callus over. So what we are going to do is we're going to come up tighter here. We're going to go ahead and cut this. And then we are going to lay this on its side like so. I probably need to put a little bit more water in there. And I'm going to leave it on the counter like this overnight so that, because it's pretty late in the day right now, so I probably won't get around to potting this up until tomorrow morning, but I'm gonna leave it like this until this end calluses over and becomes hard, which this is not so thick that it won't do it overnight. It will do it overnight. So then tomorrow I will go ahead and pot this up just using our epiphyte mix that we've been using into something probably close to like this size. All right, so let me go ahead and just set this somewhere safe where Theo won't mess with it. All right, and I say somewhere safe because before I show you the Wishlist plant, I have to explain to you what happened this morning because of Theo. So while I'm doing that though, I'm gonna go ahead and just pot up this last plant right quick since it won't take us that long. Now, you might be thinking when I first took this out, all the roots are up here, so she's probably gonna cut here so she can get it into a pot easier, but there is root action coming out down here as well. So ideally, I would really like to be able to keep that part of the plant as well, but I might still have to cut it down because look, it's not gonna be tall enough and it's not a ton of roots, so I don't wanna go into anything too crazy big. So I think what I'm gonna do, especially with verrucosums, you guys, verrucosum roots are a little bit more, I don't know, sensitive in my experience than some of the other philodendrons. Like even like philodendron micans, which has relatively thin roots like this, just a little bit of a different animal here. So I really don't want to go into anything too big. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut this off even though it has like a tiny root there. I don't really see, this is where the viable growth point would be, but it does not look entirely viable. Otherwise I would try to like save this and see if I could get it to pop something off, but I'm not going to worry about it. So we're just going to cut that off. And once again, this is very thin stem, so I'm fine with just going ahead and potting this up without letting it like callus over. We're just going to go into another one of these little 2-inch pots that I previously had the Epipremnum mandulas in. And just so you guys know, this damage on this leaf, this just happens sometimes when you're propagating Philodendron verrucosum. It's just when they don't have roots to begin with, the leaf kind of can get funky, as you know, on most plants. But I find on velvet leaf plants, and in particular verrucosums, it tends to happen a lot more quickly than on some other plants. So that's all that is. And I can see here, there is a new leaf starting to, hopefully you guys can see. I don't know if you'll be able to see on camera. I don't have fingernails, I just cut my nails, so I can't like separate it, but there is bright green growth about to pop out from there. So it's about to get a new leaf. So that'll be good. All right, so just get this filled in. So Theo and Theo's nonsense. So this plant that I saw at the plant swap that you're about to get to see was in leca. So I was like, all right, well, that's kind of nice because I've kind of decided that why not grow all my syngonium in leca, since they want to shoot their roots straight down to the bottom of the pot anyway, and you can grow syngonium straight into water, or straight in just water as well. So I'm kind of thinking leca might be the way to go for them. I did, as you know, transfer one as part of my leca experiments that's in my living room right now, which I need to add some water to that one. Transferred it to leca to see how it would do and how it was going. It's doing fine. There is, I don't know if you can see it, the albo, syngonium albo that's in leca is behind me as well. It is doing fine. So they seem to do very well in leca. So I was kind of like, all right, I'm fine with the fact that it's already in leca. Now, I did get it home. It was a single cutting, but it was relatively long, probably about like this long. And I got it home though, and I realized that it actually was broken in one spot. Not totally through, but it was hanging off by a thread. Okay, I think this is good to go. And like I said, I will be watering all of these here shortly. So yeah, hanging by a thread. So I went ahead and just severed it completely and set that one into water to start rooting. I'll show that to you here too in a second. And then I'm gonna combine them all together. However, what happened this morning was I still had them sitting next to my sink because I didn't really have a good place to quarantine them. Now they were in leca, so the odds of them having a pest issue, and it was just one vine, I could see pretty well. The odds of them having a pest issue is pretty minimal. The only thing they might have had that I couldn't tell is spider mites, and you know how I feel about spider mites. So I've had it kind of just off to the side of this kitchen sink because I just wanted to make sure for certain that I wasn't seeing anything. I think we're fine. But this morning, Theo decided to knock the glass with the plant and the leca in it over. All the leca went down the sink into the garbage disposal. So I was having to dig leca out of the garbage disposal this morning. Obviously, that is not a very cleanly place. And I have not had a chance to replace the leca yet because I didn't have any leca pre-soaked to use. And I didn't want to deal with boiling the stuff that I had just dug out of the garbage disposal. So it is now, the plant is just sitting in a glass of water, but it will be going back into leca. Let me grab it to show you. Okay, you guys, so I said it's a wishlist plant. It is, I told you it was syngonium. So it is a wishlist syngonium. It is not one of my top 10 wishlist plants though. But once again, you guys, it was sitting on a table that said free. Do you really think I was just gonna leave it there? And I got a good deal on it because I think that syngonium, or not syngonium, the philodendron soderoid that she took, I think I had that labeled for sale for, I don't know, 15 bucks or something like that. And it was just a little itty bitty baby. I was like, girl, take it. Like, give me this beautiful Syngonium urethophyllum Ilano Cardi Road. So this is the kind of one of the more different syngoniums that I was telling you guys about on that list of favorite syngoniums. I feel like there's something, oh, there is something stuck to the bottom of that. Didn't want to sit flat. So here's the part that broke off that I am now trying to get to root in water so that I can combine these. But as you can see, these beautiful dark green leaves, they are arrowhead shaped, but they're a little bit like less lobed than most syngonium, and it will change over time as it matures, but they tend to stay less lobed for longer from what I've seen. But of course, the number one thing I love about this plant are these beautiful reddish backsides to these leaves. Absolutely love it. I mean, when I looked up and saw that, I was like, is that really what I think that is right now? And because I had just been talking to you guys about it the day before. So yes, super happy to have this. You can see some of the leca, the roots were already, everywhere I set it, it's like setting it on a piece of perlite or something, and it doesn't want to sit level. So some of the leca, the roots had already adhered to them well enough, it didn't go down the garbage disposal, but hopefully you can see there are a good amount of roots going on here already, so that is great. It is just, like I said, one vine though. Here's where it kind of snapped off. So I am going to, tomorrow, once my leca has had time to soak, pre-soak, I will pot this back up with the leca, and then once I do get roots on this, I will add it in there as well. I could leave this just in water until that happens, but like, I don't know. I don't want to cause it too much shock since it's used to being in the leca, so we're just going to put it back in the leca. But super happy to have this plant. I am so excited. I'm so glad she was willing to take something for it too, because I was like, I got stuff, like, just trade. I mean, if she had wanted to just give it to me for free, because like she said, she was trying to downsize her collection. you know, that's fine, like willing to help you out, but also like if you want something, I got something for you. So that is actually only the second like plant swap I've ever made, but I have been very happy with my swaps so far and I'm super excited about having that plant. All right, you guys, well, I feel like this video has been going on for quite some time, but I did want to give you the full story about Scooter and the full introduction and show you this beautiful plant and get all of this potting up done that I needed to get done. So at least I can cross that off the list. I also want to give another huge thank you to Brooklinen once again for sponsoring today's video. Once again, you can check them out by clicking on the link below in the description. They are actually offering $20 off your purchase of $100 or more when you use code Aloha Plant at checkout. But I hope you guys have enjoyed this video today. If so, please be sure to click that like and or subscribe button, and I look forward to seeing you again next time. Aloha!